І прямо з дискусії до мене приєднується в студії Дарина Каленюк, виконавча директорка Центру протидії корупції. Адже до завершення нашого марафону залишається одна панель і вже можна підводити майже фінальні підсумки. Дарино, ви в вступному слові вчора говорили про і задавала такий тон, очікування високі щодо конкретних дій, щодо планів, щодо спільних дій, об'єднуючих зусиль. Чи ви задоволені тими виступами, тими меседжами, які ми отримали від наших спікерів?
Я задоволена меседжами, але я хочу перейти до дій. Треба починати з себе. Ми тільки що говорили про те, як побороти олігархів, і багато хто говорить, як потрібно побороти корупцію. Є багато міжнародних форумів, є форуми класні, міжнародні в Україні, і нас запитають, а чи дійсно ви перша неолігархічна конференція? Ми зробимо конкретну дію. Ми опублікуємо детальний звіт, хто нас фінансує, на що ми витратили гроші, і ми запрошуємо всі міжнародні форуми і в Україні, і за кордоном, всі міжнародні форуми, які будуть говорити про деолігархізацію, які будуть говорити про боротьбу з корупцією, про корупцію як загрозу національної безпеки, також бути прозорими в тому,
We are going to ask them to be transparent about how they are funded, because we need to understand who is coming up with the agenda at the national and international level. This will be our specific thing. We will publish our financial report, and we are ready to take action. So first, letters of gratitude, then a financial report, and then all sessions that were part of our conference will be available on the conference website. But what about the further work? What are your advocacy priorities at the level of Ukraine and the level of the international community? First, at the level of Ukraine, we heard a lot of strong messages about the judicial reform. I am very thankful to the president of the Venice Commission, who came here, who worked at our forum for 2 days, who had meetings with Mr. Razumko, with the president, and who explained that we, as Venice Commission, have made very specific recommendations about purging the judicial system in Ukraine. Just engage independent international experts in this cleansing process, the process of cleansing judicial governance agencies. He already said that the current draft laws that are in the parliament are not in line with the recommendations of the Venice Commission. Let's do that. I have suggestions to the Ukrainian Speaker of the Parliament, to Mr. Zelensky. Let's start the oligarchization from the very first step of the right judicial draft laws. Let's have them passed by the end of the summer. But I also have an international advocacy goal. What is it? So my advocacy goal at the international level, you mean in the next week when those discussions will take place? I have this dream. I want corruption to be viewed as a threat to national security at the level of European Union by the end of this year, at the level of the EU, at the level of the UK. I want all countries of developed democracy to recognize that corruption is not just a problem of developing countries, of democracies in transition. This is a problem also of developed democracies. And it is a problem which ruins them from within, which undermines the ideas of democracy. We are interdependent in this struggle. In order to restore the power of democracy, we need to unite our efforts. So I expect Austria to recognize the corruption as a threat to its national security. I want Germany to do that. Let's work together. We have solutions here in Ukraine. Maybe not all of them are great. Maybe we have a lot of things to work on, but we do have things to share, because while we do make mistakes, we also take steps forward. And our conference called Democracy in Action. Let's take action together. We are acting together in Ukraine. Let's take action internationally together as well. Let's call a spade and do what we promised to do. Let's not just talk. I am once again thankful. Just a few words of gratitude. Yeah, I thank the Anti-Corruption Action Center, and you can keep thanking people. Yes, exactly. I want to thank the people who made this conference possible. This is invisible work, but this is fantastic work. First of all, I want to thank the Starmaze company and Talka Kovalov, who actually made this happen, who brought this all together. We are happy that we have such strong partners. Viktor Knyzhy is our director, who has been here for the second day, who controls our timing. The Anti-Corruption Action Center, Yulia Magiralova, have done a lot of invisible work. I'm very thankful to you, our volunteers, our communication partners. Without you, we would have very hard time organizing this. So, great job. You did a lot of good things, and we are going to relax a bit today. I suggest that we start our final panel so that our team wouldn't get nervous about this, and our panel will help us understand what the threats of Nord Stream 2 are, and what are the inconsistencies of this project with the Green New Deal, which is part of the agenda in Europe and the US. So we are moving on to the next panel, and its moderator is Serhiy Vykhryst, expert of the European Eco Forum and co-drafter of the EIA Strategic Environmental Assessment Legal Framework of Ukraine. Just in a moment.
EU has been strongly criticized for giving green light to the transportation of Russian natural gas to Europe via Nord Stream 2. Is this decision in line with ambitious and pioneering European Green Deal, and how the operation of Nord Stream 2 and supply of fossil fuels from Russia will help the EU to achieve the goal of carbon neutrality until 2050? The public and many of those stakeholders inside and outside the EU take it and see it as a corruption at a strategic level. Non-governmental organizations are filing lawsuits challenging such corruptive and illegal decision-making. Nord Stream 2 is also against the interests of Ukraine and makes the European continent dependent from Russia. Nord Stream has generated conflict between politics, economics, and environment. We have a panel of distinguished speakers here to discuss the correlation between Nord Stream 2 and European Green Deal. Among the speakers, Manuel Sarrazin, who represents Alliance 90, the Greens, and he is the member of German Parliament, Bundestag. Mykhaylo Gonchar from the Center for Global Studies Strategy 21, and the center is focusing on global issues of energy sector development, energy policies and international security, development of energy relations with countries from the Black Sea, Caspian, Baltic Sea, Central Asia and European Union. He is also a chief editor of the Black Sea Security Journal. Olga Melen-Zabramna from the international NGO Environmental People Law, who has been practicing environmental law and defending citizens' environmental rights for more than 15 years. She is, together with her colleagues, she is the Goldman Award winner. Dr. Benjamin Schmitt, who is a postdoctoral research fellow and project development scientist at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, a senior fellow for democratic resilience at the Center of European Policy Analysis, and a fellow at the Duke University Center for International Global Studies. From 2015 to 2019, Dr. Schmitt served as European Energy Security Advisor at the US Department of State. And also, we have the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Mr. Jacek Saryusz-Wolski. And we also have the advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine on European and Euro-Atlantic integration, Mr. Oleksiy Riabchyn, who is Energy and EU Green Deal advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine, the Climate Policy Advisor to the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine. He used to serve as the Deputy Minister for Energy and Environmental Protection of Ukraine, and he also used to be a member of the Ukrainian Parliament from 2014 to 2019. And the first speaker to contribute to this panel discussion is Manuel Sarrazin. And the question that I wanted to ask is, well, obviously Germany is one of the main engines of the EU, and therefore major EU initiatives like the European Green Deal are not likely to be successful without Germany's true commitment. For how long, in your view, Nord Stream 2 will be supported in Germany? The floor is yours. Okay, then while we are waiting for Mr. Sarrazin to join in, I think the next speaker, pursuant to the agenda, is the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Mr. Jacek Wolski. And the question is, what is the vision on of Poland in the correlation, in terms of correlation between these two projects, Nord Stream and the big, one of the fundamental initiatives, the European Green Deal? The floor is yours. Unfortunately, we can't hear you. Please turn on the mic.
Okay, now you hear me, probably. Just a small correction, I was European Affairs Minister, not Foreign Affairs. But now, what is relevant for the topic, I am standing rapporteur of the European Parliament for energy security. Your question is, how do we see this problem from Poland? Mm-hmm. I would say that first, there has been volumes written and said about it, about Nord Stream 2, from the point of view of energy security, because it is detrimental to the energy security of the whole European Union, including, and if not the most, for the eastern flank of European Union, which means, among others, Poland. Second, on climate, I would just quote what was said in the Congress, American Congress, by Secretary for Energy Jennifer Granholm. She said a few days ago, one of the reasons why this pipeline is very dangerous is because it is carrying the dirtiest form of natural gas on Earth, with no security on methane emissions. So she distances herself from her boss, President Biden. So it is detrimental as gas, although gas may be a transitional fuel in the transition period. But this gas coming from Russia is exceptionally dirty. And the second, an environmental concern, which we do have in Poland, but we share it with the Baltic states like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and others, Sweden, and Denmark, and Finland, is that it is on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, where there's enormous amounts of weaponry from the First and the Second World War, including chemical weapons, which may become moved and become dangerous because of the laying of the pipeline, but also because of the exploitation. The third element is that already now we know that Russia will be guarding and protecting the pipeline. It will be a pretext for the increased naval presence of Russia in the Baltic Sea. And that leads me to another than climate concern, which is linked with the geopolitical side of it, because it is extremely dangerous and harmful for Ukraine, for Belarus, for Poland, for Slovakia, because it increases the dependence, not only energy, which is obvious, but also geopolitical dependence on Russia, which has very aggressive attitudes, as we know. The next element besides this, which is linked to geopolitical weapon, gas being geopolitical weapon, is corruption. A long time ago, the German doctrine of Ostpolitik used to say Wandel durch Handel, which means change through trade. So it was saying more or less that by trading with Russia, Russia will change in a positive sense. What is happening with Nord Stream 2, not only, but especially, is that it's the other way around. It is not only supporting the kleptocracy and corruption system of Russia, but it is also fueling corruption into another direction. We call it Schroederization of Europe. The political elite of Europe, in its part, is captured, is corrupted by this Nord Stream 2 link. So to sum up, on all those fronts, be it energy security, be it climate, be it geopolitical weapon, and corruptive influence on Europe, and consolidating corrupt regime of Russia, this is an enterprise which is fatal, detrimental, harmful, and should be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are back with making it available for to us to speak and participate in this panel. Mr. Manuel Sarrazin, again, Alliance 90, the Greens, member of Bundestag. And my question to Mr. Sarrazin is, Germany is one of the main engines of the EU, just repeated, and therefore the major EU initiatives like the European Green Deal are not likely to be successful without Germany's true commitment. For how long, in your view, Nord Stream 2 will be supported in Germany? Please, the floor is yours.
So first I have to excuse for the setting. Usually I want to sit in front of a bookshelf to show my intelligence, but I was totally stuck in traffic in my hometown. So you have to imagine now this is the intelligent bookshelf and not the family car, which I was driving just before. So excuse me for my delay. Yeah, my clear sentence on this is, first, I have to agree on what Mr. Sarhiy-Wolski just said before. Nord Stream 2 is a project which is feeding indirectly into the corrupt Kremlin structures. Germany should be more aware of that, especially as some famous German politicians are also benefiting of this money which is made by Russian oil and gas companies. But the clear situation is like that. The German government from time to time is talking like it could be more critical towards Nord Stream 2 or even stop it. But in reality, the political will to push it through as fast as possible before the elections, if possible, is quite big in the Grand Coalition with the leftists and with the AfD, the right-wing nationalist party. Also, the liberals are in the parliament usually voting in favor of Nord Stream 2, although within the liberals it is quite disputed because the foreign policy group within the liberals is quite near to our position on that. And now we have this huge debate on a moratorium or a switch-off mechanism in Germany, which might be perhaps bringing some results, but I fear it also might be mainly bringing time for finishing the building of the pipe. So the German political scene, except the Greens, is in the end positive towards Nord Stream 2.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker on our panel is Mykhaylo Gonchar. And my question to you is, can Nord Stream 2 undermine the European Green Deal and the global climate action?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the invitation to participate in this phenomenal conference. I prepared not only my speech, but some slides too, because when we speak about pipes, oil, gas, we need more schemes, maps for better understanding. When analyzing a project, it is important to see not only what its initiators show, but also what they ignore and try to hide. The Nord Stream 2 is such a project where there is something that is overlooked and something that is carefully hidden. As you know, greenhouse gases are not just CO2, dioxide carbon. Conventional natural gas, methane, CH4, helps global warming much more efficiently than CO2. Its greenhouse potential is from 25 to 84 times higher than the carbon dioxide potential. The harmful effects of methane emissions into the atmosphere appeared in scientific research only in early 2000s. In Russia, this has been highlighted in studies by different institutions, including Arctic-Antarctic Institution, Oil and Gas Institution of Russian Academy of Sciences, and others. In the context of the development of Arctic gas and oil fields, construction of the Nord Stream pipelines, and natural gas liquefaction on the Yamal Peninsula. According to German federal government, the strongest argument in favor of Russia's Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2 projects is the greater use of natural gas as a transition fuel to achieve the goals of decarbonization and climate neutrality. Indeed, CO2 emissions from gas combustion are on average 1/3 lower than emissions from traditional coal or oil combustion. That is, by using gas from Nord Streams, they say, you can get a significant reduction in CO2 emissions in the atmosphere over Germany and the EU. These pipelines themselves do not emit anything into the atmosphere because these are sealed pipes that lie at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. They do not have gas compressor stations that emit CO2 and methane. But this argument, frankly speaking, is false. Nord Stream 2 is only a 1,200 kilometers offshore section of the new gas transmission system from the Bovanenkovo gas field on the Yamal Peninsula to German-Czech border, with a total length of more 4,700 kilometers. See this slide, please. I take some maps for all sections, for every section of this route. That is, it is necessary to estimate the total effect of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, not only because of the local effect in Europe, but also considering the entire pipeline route with dozens of compressor stations using natural gas as a fuel. After all, methane and CO2 emissions into the atmosphere occur in Yamal and on the route from Yamal Peninsula to Europe. Therefore, a certain reduction in CO2 emissions in Germany due to greater use of gas from Russian streams will respond to additional CH4 methane emission in Yamal and together with CO2 on the route to Europe. Because methane is tens of times more aggressive than carbon dioxide, the overall reduction in greenhouse gas emissions seems questionable. Given the order of magnitude more aggressive methane compared to CO2, this means that the positive effect of reducing CO2 emissions in Europe will be completely neutralized by the negative effect of increasing CH4 and CO2 emissions in Yamal and over the gas route to the EU. It's a very important remark. Lowered figures for reducing CO2 emissions amid tacit agreement with increasing emissions of more aggressive CH4 are the wrong way to achieve the Green Deal goals for Europe. After all, the Earth's atmosphere is the same, both over Germany, Yamal, Finland, or United States. Therefore, the argument of supporters of Nord Stream 2 about the environmentally friendly project at least are incorrect and, frankly speaking, false. By the way, the German Institute for Economic Research believes that to achieve the EU's climate goals by 2030, it is necessary to have the share of gas in energy balance, and by 2040 to abandon it altogether. A recent report by the Scientists for the Europe, this is new established group, consists of the Germans, Austrian, and the scientists from Switzerland too, notes that given methane emission, conclusion may be later, not so quickly. Please, return slide. A recent report by the Scientists for Future notes that given methane emissions from natural gas production and transportation, expanding its use could have the same negative climate impact as well as the use of coal. What does Nord Stream 2 look like in this context with 50 years life cycle? 50 years. It's correct slide. Scientists in Russia itself are also sounding the alarm about increased methane emission from the Arctic due to industrial activities to develop oil and gas deposits. A feature of Yamal, as well as most of the Arctic coast of Russia, is the saturation of the permafrost layer with methane hydrates. Methane hydrates means a very unstable, ice-like mixture of methane and water. Global warming has destabilized the permafrost in the Arctic. It has begun to melt, and with it is the permafrost deposits of methane hydrates have begun to degrade, releasing large amounts of methane into the atmosphere. Looking at the satellite monitoring, you see this satellite photos. Okay, 1 minute. Monitoring data of the European Space Agency, local anomalies of high concentration of methane in the atmosphere over the Yamal are due to increased anthropogenic emissions in areas of active gas production and transportation. It was, next slide please, last slide. It was in the Yamal in 2010 that the phenomenon of cryovolcanism, unusual for Earth, appeared caused by the natural explosive of methane from permafrost and stimulated by the industrial activity of Russian companies in the fragile Arctic nature. Therefore, my last point, development of the Arctic gas and oil fields and the construction of long-distance transcontinental pipeline infrastructure by Russia is a global, environmental, and climate crime. The accomplices of this crime, unfortunately, at the European end of the pipeline are several German federal governments led by Angela Merkel, during whose chancellery the first Nord Stream was put into operation, and now she tries to complete the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. What a pity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Of course, this is the first interaction that we expect from you, but obviously there will be some also around discussion, around the panel discussion as regards extra reflection to the issue. Now, I would like to give the floor to Olga Melen-Zabramna with an NGO perspective. And my specific question is, in your view, is Nord Stream 2 a unique example of strategic corruption in Europe? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, the distinguished audience. It's a big pleasure and a big honor to speak about this issue of corruption and the issues of which are threatening the implementation of the Green Deal, not only in Europe, but also in Ukraine, as Ukraine is also plans to follow the goals of the Green Deal in the nearest future. So I would like to mention some also interesting facts when corrupted Russian government have been involved in different kind of projects all around Europe, thus spreading Russian type of corruption, spreading illegal and unstable decisions, spreading political crisis, and also trying to destabilize the political situation in Europe as well. So I would like to mention that the Russian Federation has been a long time trying to invest, so-called to invest in different infrastructure projects and in different energy projects in Europe. And the big issue where the Russia is still very active is the nuclear energy and construction of nuclear power plants, and further dealing with nuclear waste. So here, Russian Federation has some big supporters, and few states that support its plans and its generous loans to construct different types of nuclear power plants in Europe. So there are a couple of examples like Bulgaria, Hungary, Czech Republic. The plans to construct nuclear power plants there are associated with also corruption on a high level. There is a strong opposition from different political parties, from NGOs, from public society to these plans, but these countries are really very favorable to Russia, especially in times when the heads of those countries are traveling to Moscow for some private meetings with the president of Russia or some head officials in Russian government. So and usually Russia is providing those countries with very generous loans in order to construct power plants and to operate those power plants. So this kind of generous gifts those countries cannot resist. So the issue is, for instance, with Hungary, with construction of nuclear power plant in Vykhryst 2, as well as in Bulgaria, as Bulgaria was a captive market for Russian nuclear industry, and also Bulgaria was called the Russian Trojan horse in the European Union because of their long-standing tradition of supporting Russia, supporting Rosatom and other, and supporting all of the project where the Russia is standing behind. So in this case, those countries like Hungary, like Bulgaria, they are very much under the influence of Russia, and this influence is also because Russia generously gave them a big loans for the construction of the nuclear power plants. Like in Hungary, Russia made a loan 10 billion of euros, a big loan to Hungary, and Hungary is now only due to pay 2 million to continue construction of Vykhryst 2. Also in Czech Republic, there was also a debate whether to include or exclude Russia in the tender process for planned 6 billion project in Dukovany nuclear power plant. And the main issue whether to allow Russia and China to participate in this tender was the security concerns issue. So Russia is also has very strong ties to Czech Republic as well, and there are many countries in the EU. It's a pity, but they are also supporting a Nord Stream construction, like Germany, like Austria, like a few other parties, a few other countries. So back to the issue of the Nord Stream, we can state that. Nord Stream is a project that will not allow Europe to reach its Green Deal goals in the nearest future, because because Green Deal says that Europe should cut its emission at least by 55% until 2030, and Green Deals said that Europe aims to become the world's first climate neutral continent. So with increased gas supply from Russia via Nord Stream, it will be very hard to achieve this goal. And even some top officials of in the EU are saying that gas can play a very small role in the energy sector in those countries, in the EU countries, but it cannot be as crucial as it is now. So if the Europe will allow to continue Nord Stream 2 construction and to operate it, by this Germany and other European countries which will buy Russian gas from Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines, they will also finance the war that Russia initiated in the east of Europe, and also these kind of activities will undermine the revenues to the Ukrainian budget that are coming from the transition of the gas via Ukraine, and also the issue of the transition of the gas via Ukraine, via Poland. It's a big issue for those countries. So it's a very critical project, and it's a pity when the Russian Gazprom and Russian state-run companies are behind of the economic project. There is always lots of corruption, lots of pressure on public, lots of fake news in mass media, and usually the public is the one who can resist who can go to court, who can use legal mechanism provided by on the level of the European Union, who can use legal tools and go to court in order to challenge the decision taken by those corrupted officials.
Thank you, Oля. About an hour ago, a bit more, I guess, during yet another panel here, Senator Whitehouse mentioned that basically there are no illusions about the real objectives and the real meaning of Nord Stream project. I believe that if the overwhelming majority of decision makers better sooner come to the same conclusion, then probably we could ask Dr. Schmitt, how can the US play stronger or perhaps decisive role in Nord Stream 2? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for the organizers for having me here today. And I'm really glad that there's a Nord Stream 2 specific panel at the Zero Corruption Conference, because it really is indicative of the much broader issues that we see across the national security space when it comes to the transatlantic community. After all, when we talk about these issues, we see headlines all the time over the past several years that are describing national security threats or debates over national security threats associated with authoritarian infrastructure influence, meaning investments in economic deals, quote unquote, investments in emerging technologies, and investments in critical infrastructure, where authoritarian nations like Moscow and Beijing have come into the transatlantic community and have basically inverted that idea of Wandel durch Handel that Jacek mentioned earlier, where we've really seen that this proliferation of the Schroederization of Europe has led to an inversion of that, where it's been all Handel or all trade and no Wandel or no change, at least change towards a open, liberal, democratic well-regulated action in the economic space by these authoritarian nations. So when it comes to looking at the kind of the latest on Nord Stream 2, I'll quote an American football coach who said, "They are who we thought they were." Dennis Green said, "They are who we thought they were." And this is exactly what we saw at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum last week, when Vladimir Putin announced that the first of 2 strings of Nord Stream 2 is nearly complete. And because of that progress, immediately, even before the project is complete, Putin immediately came out and said it will be up to Kyiv to show goodwill in order to continue gas transit through Ukraine. And that shows exactly what the transatlantic community has been so concerned about with this project since 2015. We're in the 7th year of this debate, and there's really no debate left. When it comes to these sort of strategic corruption projects, these malign influence projects, which Nord Stream 2 certainly is, the United States, from the Obama administration to the Trump administration, and now the Biden administration, have been resolute in pointing out opposition to the project. And for these exact reasons, because it undermines not only the energy security, not to mention green energy goals and everything that's been said. It's been said in much greater depth already, so I will skip over that. Aside from to say that yes, the European Space Agency has shown that the infrastructure from which Nord Stream 2 gas would come from does have significant methane emissions from European Space Agency open source data sets from satellites that they've put in orbit. And Greta Thunberg has called out herself this project as running counter to not only the green and rightful climate change goals that we collectively are fighting, but also, you know, strategic corruption and all of the sort of things that are anti-democratic. And so this is why is, you know, I was in some ways surprised to see the Biden administration come out and announce that whereas it would take some sanctions actions against technology calibrated sanctions on Russian vessels, Russian entities, etc., aimed at stopping the project, it would at the same time name Nord Stream 2 AG and its CEO Matthias Warnig as engaging in sanctionable behavior, but then waiving those sanctions. And this is concerning on a broader strategic level, because when we look at Warnig himself, Warnig is not only an ex-Stasi officer and longtime Putin crony who sits on the boards of multiple Kremlin-controlled state-owned enterprises and banks. He was also named earlier this year in Russian opposition leader Oleksiy Navalny's widely circulated anti-corruption video as a key figure in Putin's orbit of strategic corruption. So unless that particular move is subsequently reversed or clarified, it really will undermine, I think, the Biden administration's excellent goals to fight kleptocracy worldwide that they announced last week, to band together with other democracies to do so. And the problem is that if that particular decision is not reversed, I fear that the lesson that authoritarian nations like Russia and China will take is that their recent strategy of targeting current and former Western officials and nations allied with the United States for elite capture is a sound one. Because both nations already use this strategy, whether via Russia's energy or China's critical infrastructure deals in Europe, to undermine policies that would limit the spread of authoritarian national security threats. You know, officials coming out and pushing against efforts to stop Nord Stream 2, for example, and to take that step to list and then waive sanctions on a character as emblematic of Putin's crony capitalism as Warnig will only encourage their campaign to continue unabated. So I really think that needs to be reversed and reversed quickly. And I think that we've seen that in the United States, although that action was taken, there has been resolute and bipartisan criticism of that decision from both Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill, and many calls for further legislation to ensure Nord Stream 2 is not brought into operation. Secretary Blinken maybe rightfully said that the project is a fait accompli when it comes to physical construction. It is close to being done to physical in terms of physical construction. I believe that full implementation of sanctions now could stop that construction. But what I will clarify is that what he didn't say was that the project is a fait accompli to come into operation. And I hope that this is the message that the Biden administration and Capitol Hill will take home today and into the future of the next several weeks, that there are many stages of this project that are still targeted under existing sanctions or could be targeted under future legislation for the pre-certification, the testing, the insurance, and all of these other steps that brings it to operation. And already we saw the main certification firm, the firm DNV-GL in Norway, drop out of the project earlier this year because of those exact threats and the threats of sanctions. And because of that, you see statements already from the Kremlin saying that, well, the next step is going to be potentially a bumpy one because of those sanctions. How is it going to actually come into operation? Number one. And number two, the political dynamics in Germany very well may change. As we saw the leading in the polls, there are the Green Party right now. They have vowed to not allow the finalization of Nord Stream 2. And there are EU tools at their disposal that could allow that should they, the political dynamics change. And so those are things to keep in mind. And I'll also just end on this by saying that one thing that has been really overlooked over the past several weeks is that Annalena Baerbock, the German Green Party leader, came out and said this German government, quote, is completely against all other Europeans with this pipeline project, and pointed out that if she was elected, she would stop the project. Fine, that's up for the German voters to decide. However, the Kremlin came out and pushed back by this report that came out that the Russians led a cyber attack on Baerbock herself, reportedly in retaliation for this very stance on Nord Stream 2. So this really undercuts the idea that this is, quote, just a commercial deal. I believe it is not just a commercial deal, as I often say. And the German government, on this particular note, currently needs to step up its efforts to make clear to the Kremlin that no pipeline project is more important than limiting Russia's ability to meddle in the German democratic process itself and the democratic process of the transatlantic community writ large.
Thank you. Oleksiy, thank you for your patience and in this long list of speakers, and of course the issue is really high on the agenda, and a lot has been already mentioned here with regard to both developments, but specifically since we are sitting in Kyiv and we are transmitting this message to the whole world, how discouraging, in your view, Nord Stream 2 can be for Ukraine's aspiration to follow the European Green Deal?
Yes, thank you very much. I feel myself like I'm a dessert, the very last to speak, and people are here. Like all the technicians are already looking hungry for me, so I will be like trying to be very, very quick. But it's it's been very interesting panel, I would say, because like I'm in for 15 years in climate change affairs. For 5 years, I was doing being a member of parliament with the Nord Stream, with a distinguished colleague who are next to me in this video screen. For a couple of years, I'm doing the Green Deal. But it's the first time when the Nord Stream and the Green Deal is highly debated. So it was like one of the most interesting solution and sophisticated solution for the conference organizers. So just a quick words, like Ukraine is definitely share the aspiration of the European Union. We said lots of times that we are aligning our policies with the Green Deal one. Like we have a special dialogue on the level of our Prime Minister. So our Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has a special dialogue with his counterpart, which is Executive Vice President Timmermans. They already met several times and discussed, the top agenda and the champions agendas, like for the energy efficiency, for the just transition of a coal mine region, for the building or rebuilding of the climate governance architecture, and the hydrogen, which are the flagship initiative of Ukrainian government. Also, we have a really great dialogue and a task force from different ministries that is led by the Olga Stefanishina, Vice Prime Minister on the European integration from the Ukrainian side, Katarina Maternova, who was on previously on the panel yesterday from the European side. We have an extensive dialogue, how to institutionalize this Green Deal dialogue, how to do an ambitious NDCs, how to explore all the opportunities that Green Deal has, in innovation and in mobility in many spheres, and of course to tackle the challenges, CBAM and many other stuff. And then comes the Nord Stream, because it's add a lot of uncertainty to our plans to decarbonize Ukraine. We already have the economic strategy where we said we will try to do our best to decarbonize up to the 2060, but like we will try to do maybe even earlier if it's possible. But like it's not only about the money, I will say about the money, the funds needed for the decarbonization. It's also about the intellectual capital, about the efforts of a government. So we are now doing the third energy package. So we are building markets, which our colleagues in Eastern Europe built, I don't know, 20 years ago. Now we are trying to think about the fourth energy package, which is about decarbonization, about the prosumers, about the role of renewables, and like bearing in mind the fifth energy package, which is a Green Deal, which goes about the emission reduction. It's like incredibly difficult, and like when we have, for example, our like economic forum in Berlin with Angela Merkel, with the Prime Minister of Ukraine. And the Germans said, like, yeah, we see that Ukraine could be a champion on the green hydrogen in Europe, that you could ship a lot of hydrogen because you have a lot of land, you have a lot of renewable potential, you have a lot of water. And we say, yeah, but like how could we ship this hydrogen if we have the Nord Stream 2? If we will not have such amount of gas flow to you, we need to to invest a lot in this kind of stuff, and like nobody will invest in Ukraine because we have an uncertainty. We have uncertainty with the gas transit from 2024, and we will start raising this concern in European Commission. Said, let's see, because there's Nord Stream, there is a lot of uncertainty. So like, wait a second. So hydrogen investment, which are one of the bases of the Green Deal, requires huge amount of certainty and huge amount of probability. And like we see our national champion Naftogaz, who is thinking about hydrogen very seriously. We know that our gas TSO is also testing, the capacity of the pipe. We are looking for the possibility to do this. But like with the Nord Stream, it comes a huge question mark. And I will just say a few words about the price of the decarbonization that we already know that we will do. Just like seven figures. So first, like our GDP in Ukraine in 2019 was 137 billion euros. Also, we could say that we receive loans from the EU from 2030 to 2080. So for 5 years, we receive 4 billion as a macro-financial assistance from the European Union. We calculated the CBAM, the imposure of CBAM, the carbon border adjustment mechanism that we are like negotiating, that like it's possibly be from 2.7 billion up to 7 billion. So from roughly from 3 to 7 billions up to 2030. So this money could go out of Ukrainian budget, of Ukrainian GDP, and goes to, I don't know, somewhere, or like we could lose the export potential. And this is without the calculation of the emission trading system that will be built in Ukraine and that we are trying to do. And on like what we need to pay for the decarbonization. Our NDC, and it's like a first time Ukraine is trying to plan an ambitious NDC, so 65%, which is like for the first time is a proper reduction of our NDC. And it will cost us 100 billion euros up to 2030. 100 billion euros. So we need to spend to decarbonize and to lower our emission. We need to spend on energy efficiency, on renewables, on e-mobility, or on agriculture, etc., etc. It's like a huge amount of money. Bearing in mind the CBAM, bearing in mind the Nord Stream, I will mention it. We already, because as I said, like we are like failing a bit to deliver the proper markets and decarbonization, we already have debts to our renewable investors. For the previous year, it's like 1 billion euro. Like it's a debt, and we need either to raise the price for the household or for the industry, which is also politically very not really great. Till 2030, we need to pay approximately 30 to 40 billion euros for the renewable production, for the feed-in tariff. We are not speaking about the auction which we are launching. Also, we need to install filters on our coal production, which we need to have yet, and it's about like 4 billion euros. And if speaking about the Nord Stream, the calculation of the Razumkov Center, they said that like up to like we will lose up to $2 billion per year when the Nord Stream will be implemented of losing the transit, and we need to spend up to $10 billion for the dismantling and for the reassembling the pipeline. So like it's a huge amount of money we need to pay, we need to spend, we need to put on paper, and for us, it's a proper answer, a proper question. Whether like the Nord Stream is not only the threat for our security, it's not only a threat for our economic development, it's not only a threat for our transit, but it's also a threat for our Green Deal, for the Green Deal Ukraine. And although our businesses is declaring the carbon neutrality and paying like huge attention to the climate obligation, and we are like really like taking it seriously, I think that like a lot of people will start speaking about the reciprocal approach while we are implementing the third energy package, and we hear a lot of efforts to to waive Nord Stream 2 from the third energy package. Like while we are doing the Green Deal, we are like very climate ambitious to all our possibilities, and Russia is not climate ambitious at all. They don't have carbon pricing. They are not planning the emission trading system. So they neglect all the climate ambitions. And I'm for 5 years COP negotiator. I know how Russia behave in COP. And like they receive their Nord Stream pipe, which will be locked in infrastructure. And my last remark, like during Obama's administration, for him, like the ratification of the Paris Climate Agreement was like his legacy. And I'm very proud that myself, including Hanna Hopko, who is a co-organizer of this event, and like a lot of other MPs, our parliament becomes third in the world to ratify Paris Climate Agreement. And we work closely with the team of Kerry. And it was Obama legacy. And I definitely does not want that the Biden legacy will be the building of Nord Stream 2. I met with Biden, being myself members of parliament, and I found him like a very honest and like one of the best politicians I ever met. So definitely I don't want Nord Stream 2 become the Obama legacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like
Biden legacy, sorry.
I would like to ask the speakers to be as concise as possible. We actually have even less than 1 minute per speaker. And my question to all of you would be, what is the future of Nord Stream and the European Green Deal? And will the EU and the US show Ukraine good practice of fighting strategic corruption and resisting Russia's pressure with respect to Nord Stream 2? And the first one to reflect on that would be Minister Sarrazin.
Well, I have bad news. I think that Nord Stream will happen. The climate concerns will not be taken into account. The geopolitical bad intentions will prevail. It will produce long-term dependence on Russia, erosion of fundamental values of the West, polity and politics, appeasement of Russia, because Nord Stream is trying to, it is an attempt to work with the dictator and aggressor, will produce result as it did in 1930s end of with appeasing Hitler. As Churchill said, you wanted to avoid war and you chose dishonor. Now we wanted, or some wanted, to avoid confrontation and chose disgrace. Confrontation with Russia will come because money from Nord Stream will give them much more powerful army, and the price will be high in geopolitical, military and security terms. It will undermine all the green goals, so forget it. It will strengthen and embolden Russia's aggressive policy and blackmailing, which already happens. 2 days ago, Putin blackmailed Ukraine with Nord Stream not yet finished. It will paralyze EU-Russia policy, and it will degrade EU as a political entity. Thank you.
Thank you. Even more concise if possible. Mr. Manuel Sarrazin, please, your reflection.
Yeah, so if Nord Stream 2 happens, and the probability is not 100%, but it is not so low, I think for Ukraine it's clear that its path to carbon neutrality and the own way out of gas for Ukraine and into renewables is important, as well for internal issues, to be not so depending on Russian gas pressure like in 2007, for example, but also like last week done by Putin, but also finding new ways of being integrated into the European Union energy market with other options than gas transit. So investing in renewables, in hydrogen, but also in other renewables, and trying to integrate as far as possible with energy interest of us to make our businesses being more exploited to Ukraine. So if the next Russian try to tackle other energy projects in Ukraine would be also non-beneficial for German companies. Second is, I'm not 100% sure what will happen with Nord Stream. If we come to government, we'll have, of course, a difficult situation because the allowances are all given. So it would be only at a high cost if we take them back by substitutive money, which would have to be given by the German government. But sometimes you never know why Putin is saying what he's saying. And I was quite surprised that they already were saying so clearly, he was saying so clearly this open words of pressure towards Ukraine, although the pipe is not really finished. And sometimes perhaps you have to be really clear on something if you don't want anybody to believe that perhaps you have more problems with the pipeline to finish it than everybody thinks. Yeah, the timetable for finishing the pipeline is far behind already. And I cannot do any forecast when it will be operational or not and to what extent, but it can be only if Putin showed his real face quite early. The other possibility is that he tried to make the strong statement to neglect possible problems coming up with the building of the pipe. I don't know that, but I think that there's two options on the table.
Thank you very much. Mykhaylo, 1 minute, even 45 seconds.
Yes. Please, my last slide from my presentation with very concrete 3 points. As I see, Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 versus Green Deal means that Russian gasocracy, last slide, please. Russian gasocracy plus European democracy means permission for additional emission, CH4 and CO2. Next slide, please. Next. So, an American-European joint green initiative to ban the development of fossil resources, coal, oil, and gas, in the Arctic regions is needed. Next. American-European so-called operation to force Russia to abandon the development of Arctic hydrocarbon deposits is needed. And Nord Stream 2 project should be stopped as a matter of priority. In the case when this pipeline will complete it, we will receive new windows of opportunity to eliminate this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Ola, 30 seconds even.
30 seconds. I would like to mention what Frans Timmermans from EU told recently about Green Deal and about the gas project. He said that if we will continue building infrastructure for carrying fossil gas, our children will be fighting wars over water and over food. I think it's a very strong statement. So now with the continuation of the Nord Stream 2, the EU and US can show us the example how they can fight with Russian aggressive politics, because if they allow Russia to continue with this project first will generate more corruption, and they will not fight their own corruption within the EU, and also with more money from the gas they will receive from Europe, Russia will continue also aggressive behavior and hostile action and war in the east of Ukraine. So for Ukraine, we really need to put pressure on our partners, EU and US, to help us to resist this project from being carried out.
Thank you. Dr. Schmitt, 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Nord Stream 2 is not just a commercial deal. It needs to be stopped. It is not too late for it to be stopped. The mitigation mechanisms that have been described today and elsewhere of investing in Ukrainian green energy infrastructure, that's all great. It does not in any way address the national security concerns with the project, and therefore the project still needs to be stopped, nor do the extended gas transit contract ideas and the shutoff mechanism that have been floated in the press have any credibility, because if Ukraine was cut off of gas, there is very little chance that Europe would cut off Nord Stream 2 in retaliation, because it would create a continent-wide gas crisis.
Thank
So that's it. Everyone needs to be involved in this. This can't be about us without us. That includes Ukraine, Poland, and NATO's eastern flank. Washington and Brussels should use the leverage of Nord Stream 2 to call on real, verifiable changes in behavior from the Russian Federation.
Thank you very much. And Oleksiy.
Yeah, I see a huge amount of hungry eyes looking at me because I'm the last one, so I will be super quick. So, definitely, there will be a lot of discussion over the future of the Nord Stream 2, and I truly believe that our president, our government, our members of parliament will do their best, to confront Nord Stream and to do a huge amount of efforts, as well as our professional team in Naftogaz, which I truly believe they're all doing the job they have. But let's speak about also Ukraine, what needs to do. We need to invest huge in the gas extraction to extract a lot of gas that we have, to spend a huge amount of investment on the energy efficiency, to develop the biogas, to develop the hydrogen agenda, to develop a huge amount the green transformation of our country, without thinking about Nord Stream and some other stuff. It's for us, it's for Ukrainian and for Ukrainian economy, and definitely the Green Deal is our big future. But with the Nord Stream 2 in place, it will become much more difficult to build this green Ukrainian future. Thank you.
Thank you to all speakers. And to wrap up, I would just say that probably there is no more time for illusion. It's time to act. Thank you. Дякую вам.
Спасибо вам.
Thank you.
Перший міжнародний форум «Демократія в дії», конференція нульової корупції добігає кінця. Але знаєте, я з тих людей, хто йде з кінотеатру вже після титрів, тому що я розумію, яка шалена робота стоїть за підготовкою дискусій такого рівня. Вона стала можливою завдяки об'єднаним зусиллям українського громадянського суспільства, Центру проти дії корупції, Международних інтересів Центр «Нова Європа», серед партнерів, програма сприяння громадській діяльності, долучайся.
Engage, USAID program New Justice, National Fund to Support Democracy, EUAM on reforming the civil security sector, Prague Center of Civil Society, Western East Enterprise Fund, Anti-Corruption Initiative of the EU in Ukraine. It is thanks to them that this conference is oligarch-free. And also our media partners, European Pravda, Kyiv Post, Espresso, Нове Время, Public Broadcaster Ukraine Radio 24, Channel 24, Делом. Within these 2 days, we worked in the regime of a marathon. This is about 24 hours of airtime. We had over 80 speakers from this studio, from abroad. I thank the huge team that actually made this stream possible and helped us to see each other. I thank our fantastic interpreters who helped us to hear and understand each other and also find the common language. On the website of the conference, there's going to be all panel discussions available. You can come back to them. You can write out the statements for those. You can rewatch something that you haven't managed to see during the conference because the marathon is over. But the search for efficient solutions, how to fight hybrid threats for democracy is not over yet. And that is why I wish all those who fight corruption in different countries of the world to be strong. Because this is the way that you have chosen. It is not easy, but it already yields its fruit. And our common effort is going to help us win. As they say in Ukraine, since childhood we actually learn it, fight and you will win. And I say goodbye, and the stories of activities that you are going to see after the end of the conference only prove that there are many people who support each other and are convinced that democracy in action is going to make this world much better. See you next time.